The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with beings from 100 different worlds. Some floated in special tanks of liquid. Others stood on legs that numbered from 2 to 12. A few existed as clouds of thinking gas, held together by magnetic fields. All of them had gathered for one purpose: to hear the final report on the species to join the galactic community. Humans. Ambassador of the collective moved to the center of the speaking platform. His body was tall and thin, covered in smooth gray skin. Where a human would have hair, had dozens of thin tendrils that glowed with soft blue light. These tendrils changed color with his emotions, and right now they pulsed with the confident blue of certainty. Fellow members of the council, began, his voice carrying through the translation systems. For 3 standard cycles, my team has studied the species known as humans. We have watched their broadcasts. We have read their histories. We have examined their cities and their customs. Today, I present our conclusions. A massive holographic display flickered to life behind him. It showed images of Earth, its blue oceans, green forests, and sprawling cities. Humans are, by galactic standards, extremely fragile, explained. Their bodies break easily. They cannot survive in vacuum. They require specific temperatures, specific air mixtures, and regular intake of food and water. Without these things, they die within days or even minutes. The display changed to show human safety equipment: helmets, seat belts, warning signs, guard rails. Because of this fragility, humans have developed an extreme fear of death. Observe how they protect themselves. They wear special hats to protect their heads. They strap themselves into their vehicles with multiple restraints. They put up barriers near any dangerous drop. They write warnings on everything. The hologram zoomed in on a cup of coffee. A small line of text read, "Caution, contents may be hot." They warn each other that hot liquid is hot, said. This level of caution suggests a species paralyzed by fear, a species that values survival above all other things. Several delegates nodded their various heads, tentacles, and sensory organs in agreement. Furthermore, continued, humans have created entire industries around the concept of protecting themselves from death. They call it insurance. They pay money regularly so that if something bad happens, they receive more money. They have built massive organizations dedicated to safety and risk management. They test their products hundreds of times to make sure nothing goes wrong. The display showed factories, laboratories, and offices filled with humans checking, measuring, and documenting. Our conclusion is clear, announced, his tendrils glowing with absolute certainty. Humans fear death more than any species we have encountered. This explains their slow expansion into space. This explains their reluctance to engage in direct conflict. They are, at their core, a careful and frightened people. He stepped back, clearly pleased with his presentation. Around the chamber, delegates began to murmur in agreement. The assessment made sense. The evidence supported it. The matter seemed settled. Then a hand rose in the human section. Doctor was small by galactic standards. She stood barely 1.5 meters tall, with black hair cut short and eyes that seemed to hold a secret joke. She wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, and a small pin on her collar showed the flag of her. "Ambassador," she said, her voice calm and polite, "may I respond?" The waved a gracious tendril. "Of course, Doctor, please share your thoughts." Stood and walked slowly toward the speaking platform. Every eye, lens, and sensory organ in the chamber followed her. "Your research is very thorough," she began. "You are correct that we have safety regulations. You are correct that we have warning labels and guard rails and helmets. Everything you have shown is true." Tendrils flickered with confusion. "Then you agree with our assessment?" "No," said simply, "because you have misunderstood why these things exist." The chamber went quiet. Even the gas beings stopped their gentle swirling. "You believe we created safety equipment because we fear death," continued. "But that is backwards. We created safety equipment because without it, we would constantly be killing ourselves doing incredibly stupid things, not by accident, on purpose, for fun. A long silence followed her words. I do not understand, admitted. Let me give you an example, said. On Earth, there is a place called the Grand Canyon. It is a massive crack in the ground over a kilometer deep. Falling into it means certain death. So we built fences and rails and warning signs. A sensible precaution, agreed. We built those things, continued, because humans kept trying to jump over the canyon on motorcycles, for entertainment. They were not trying to cross safely. They were trying to see if they could fly. Tendrils went completely dark. This was the equivalent of a human's jaw dropping. Every safety measure we have exists because someone, somewhere, tried something so dangerous that we had to create rules to stop others from copying them. And often, those rules do not work. People try anyway. High Arbiter of the hegemony leaned forward. She was an ancient being, her scaled face weathered by centuries of leadership. Doctor, are you saying that humans actively seek dangerous situations? I am saying that the line between human bravery and human stupidity is so thin that most of us cannot see it, and many of us do not care to look. The chamber erupted in confused discussion. Delegates turned to each other, trying to process this new information. Perhaps, said slowly, we need more evidence, a human expert in these matters, someone who has studied this behavior. Smiled. It was the smile of someone about to change everything. I know exactly the right person, she said. His name is Professor. He has spent his entire life studying the moments when humans looked at death, laughed, and did something amazing or terrible. Usually both. She paused, letting her words sink in. When he is finished, you will understand humanity, and you may never feel safe around us again. Professor arrived at the Galactic Council station 3 weeks after Dr. Strange's promise. His transport ship was a small, old vessel that looked like it had survived at least a dozen trips through asteroid fields. When he stepped off the landing ramp, several delegates who had come to observe immediately wondered if there had been some mistake. The professor was not what they expected. He was a man in his early 60s, thin and slightly bent from years of sitting over books and screens. His hair was more gray than black, and his face was lined with the marks of someone who smiled often. He wore simple brown pants, comfortable shoes, and a faded shirt with strange writing on it. Doctor met him at the dock with a warm bow. Professor, thank you for coming. Good to see you. He returned the bow, then looked around at the watching aliens with obvious delight. So these are the people who think we are cowards. Wonderful. I have been looking forward to this. Behind them, Ambassador approached with careful steps. His tendrils were cycling through colors of curiosity and caution. Professor, welcome to the council station. May I ask about the writing on your clothing? Looked down at his shirt as if he had forgotten what he was wearing. The faded letters read, I survived the 2089 chili cook-off. Ah, this, a memory from a food competition. Someone created a pepper so hot that eating it required signing a medical waiver. I ate several bowls of chili made with this pepper. Tendrils flickered with confusion. You were required to sign a document acknowledging possible death, and you participated anyway. I won 3rd place. The ambassador stared at him for a long moment, then turned and walked away without another word. His tendrils had gone a shade of purple that no one could interpret. The great hall was even more crowded than it had been for the first presentation. Word had spread through the station about Dr. Strange's claims. Every species wanted to see this human historian and hear what he had to say. Walked to the center platform carrying 17 data tablets stacked in his arms. He set them down in a messy pile, knocked 2 of them onto the floor, picked them up, and finally looked out at his audience. Good morning, afternoon, or current time cycle, he said cheerfully. My name is. I am a professor of human behavioral history, which is a fancy way of saying I study the stupid things my species has done throughout time. A ripple of uncertain murmuring passed through the chamber. Before I begin showing you evidence, I need to teach you a phrase. This phrase is very important. Without understanding it, you cannot understand humanity. He paused for effect. The phrase is, "Hold my beer." The translation systems hummed and clicked. Several delegates activated their personal translators to verify the conversion. The representative, a being that resembled a giant insect with too many legs, made a series of confused clicking sounds. "Is this a request for someone to hold a beverage?" they asked. "No," replied. "Well, yes, technically, but that is not what it means." He pulled up a holographic display. It showed a simple scene: two humans standing on a bridge over a river. One was holding a bottle of beer. "Imagine this situation," explained. Two friends are standing together. One of them sees something dangerous, maybe a cliff to jump from, maybe a wild animal to approach, maybe a vehicle to ride in a way it was not designed for. The friend says, "Nobody could possibly survive doing that thing." The hologram showed the first human handing his bottle to the second. The other human says, "Hold my beer." Then he does the thing. Usually he survives. Sometimes he does not. But in that moment he has decided that finding out is worth the risk. Let the hologram fade. This phrase exists because it happens so often that we needed words for it. Throughout human history, millions of dangerous, stupid, glorious things have happened because someone said, "Hold my beer," or something like it. High Arbiter raised a scaled hand. "Professor, are you saying this is common behavior, not rare individuals but a pattern across your species?" "I am saying that human history is basically a very long list of hold my beer moments connected by short periods of rest." He began pulling up files from his tablets. The holographic display filled with images, videos, dates, and incident reports. Let us start with something simple. Earth year 1974. A man named decided he wanted to jump across a canyon that was nearly half a kilometer wide. Not in a plane, not in a special vehicle, on a rocket-powered motorcycle. For military purposes, asked, to prove a new technology. For fun, because people would pay money to watch, because he wanted to know if he could. The display showed footage of a small figure launching from a ramp, flying through the air on a trail of flame, and then falling as his parachute opened too early. The crowd in the old video screamed and cheered. "He failed," continued. "He nearly died. The rocket did not work properly. He crashed into the canyon and was badly injured." "A tragedy," a delegate murmured. The following year, attendance at his shows increased by 40%. He became more famous than before. Other people started trying similar jumps. Silence filled the chamber. "And this," said with a small smile, "is one of the less interesting examples. I have not even mentioned the man who went over a waterfall in a barrel, or the people who climbed frozen waterfalls with small metal tools, or the festival where humans run through streets while angry bulls chase them." He began organizing his tablets. "I have prepared 17 hours of material. We can take breaks if needed. Some of you may want to leave and come back. I understand. What I am about to show you is difficult to believe." He looked out at the assembled beings from 100 worlds. "But I promise you this. By the end, you will understand why humans put warning labels on hot coffee. It is not because we fear death. It is because without those warnings, someone would try to break the record for drinking the hottest coffee the fastest, and someone else would film it, and then millions of people would watch and think about trying it themselves." He pulled up his first file. "Let us begin with humanity's relationship with gravity. Specifically, our long and complicated history of jumping off things." 3 hours into Professor's presentation, the medical staff of the Galactic Council Station had already treated 2 delegates for shock, and one for what could only be described as an existential crisis. The representative had stopped clicking entirely and sat frozen in place. Ambassador's tendrils had turned a color that no one had ever seen before, somewhere between horror and fascination. Doctor sat in the human section, watching the reactions with quiet amusement. She had seen give this presentation once before, at a university on Earth. Even knowing what was coming, she still found herself shaking her head at some of the footage. This event, was explaining, is called the Cooper's Hill Cheese Rolling Competition. It has been held in England for over 200 years. The holographic display showed a steep green hill. The angle was so sharp that it looked almost vertical. At the top, a crowd of humans gathered around a large wheel of yellow cheese. The rules are simple. Someone rolls the cheese down the hill, then humans chase it. Chase it, High Arbiter repeated, on that slope. On that slope. The footage began to play. The cheese wheel was pushed, and it began bouncing and rolling down the hill at terrifying speed. Then the humans launched themselves after it. Within seconds, they were not running so much as falling and tumbling, their bodies flipping and spinning as they crashed down the steep grass. Several delegates made sounds of distress. Injuries are guaranteed, continued calmly. Broken bones are common. Medical teams wait at the bottom. The competition continues every year. What is the prize? A delegate asked weakly. The cheese. Just the cheese. Just the cheese. Maybe 7 or 8 kilograms of it. People from around the world travel to this hill and throw themselves down it for a wheel of cheese they could buy in any store. Let the footage loop again. Bodies tumbled. The cheese bounced away, always faster than the humans chasing it. But the cheese is not really the point, added. The point is the doing, the story, being able to say you did it. He moved to his next file. Now let us discuss water. Humans are not aquatic creatures. We cannot breathe underwater. We are not particularly fast swimmers. Large bodies of water should be dangerous to us. And yet, the display changed to show massive waves crashing against rocks. This is big wave surfing. Humans ride small boards on waves that can reach 20 meters high. If they fall, the water can push them so deep that they lose all sense of direction. Many have died. Many more have nearly died. The sport grows more popular every year. Why? Demanded. His voice had taken on a desperate edge. Why would anyone do this? Because the waves are there. Because it feels amazing. Because humans have looked at the ocean since the beginning of our existence and thought, I bet I could ride that. Pulled up more footage. Humans surfing waves that looked like moving mountains. Humans wiping out, disappearing under walls of white foam. Humans popping back up, climbing on their boards and paddling out to do it again. This connects to a larger pattern, explained. Cliff diving, canyon swinging, something called co-steering, which involves jumping off rocks into rough ocean water. Anywhere there is water and height, humans will combine them in dangerous ways. He paused to drink from a cup of tea he had brought with him. But perhaps my favorite water-related tradition is the polar bear plunge. The display showed a frozen lake. Ice covered most of the surface. In one area, a hole had been cut. Around the hole, hundreds of humans stood in swimming clothes, despite the snow falling around them. Every year, in many cold countries, humans cut holes in frozen lakes and jump into the freezing water. For fun. Sometimes for charity, which means they convince other people to pay them money to watch them do it. How cold is the water? Asked. Just above freezing. Cold enough that a human body begins to shut down within minutes. They jump in, splash around, and climb out before they lose the ability to move their limbs. And this is celebrated. There are festivals built around it. People travel great distances to participate. They take photographs to prove they did it. They share these photographs with pride. Set down his tea and pulled up a new section of files. Now let us talk about fire. A groan came from somewhere in the chamber. Humans discovered fire very early in our history. It kept us warm. It cooked our food. It protected us from predators. It also apparently made us think, what if I covered myself in it? The display showed humans performing fire dancing, spinning flaming torches, breathing fire, walking across beds of burning coals. Fire walking is practiced in many human cultures. The coals can reach temperatures of over 500 degrees. Humans walk across them barefoot. Sometimes they run. Sometimes they dance. How do they not burn? A delegate asked. Sometimes they do burn. Often, actually. But the human foot can survive brief contact with high temperatures if the person moves quickly enough. So humans have turned this into ceremonies, competitions, and entertainment. He showed footage of fire festivals from around the world, humans leaping over bonfires, humans carrying flaming torches through streets, humans covered in protective suits, allowing themselves to be set on fire for stunts. The relationship between humans and fire is very complicated, observed. We know it can kill us, we respect its power, and we also cannot stop playing with it. Doctor noticed that several delegates had begun taking notes furiously. Others had stopped moving entirely, seemingly unable to process what they were seeing. I have not even reached the truly strange things yet, said, almost apologetically. We have not discussed storm chasing, where humans drive vehicles into the most dangerous weather on purpose. We have not discussed free climbing, where humans scale cliff faces without any safety equipment. We have not discussed the various eating competitions where humans consume dangerous quantities of food as fast as possible. He checked his tablets. We have also not discussed the history of human space exploration, which is really just the longest and most expensive, hold my beer moment in our history. He looked out at his audience with something like sympathy. Shall we take a break? I understand this is a lot to absorb. Some of you look like you need a moment. High Arbiter stood slowly, her ancient scales shifting with the movement. Professor, she said, I have lived for 400 standard years. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have witnessed wars and wonders. And I can honestly say that I have never been so confused and disturbed by anything as I am by your presentation. Smiled warmly. We get that a lot. After a short break during which 3 more delegates required medical attention and the representative had to be gently shaken back to awareness, Professor returned to the speaking platform. The chamber was quieter now. The earlier confusion had been replaced by something else, a careful, almost fearful attention. We are now entering hour 5 of my presentation, announced. I want to thank you all for your patience. I know this has been difficult. Difficult is not the word I would choose, muttered, his tendrils dim and still. Before I continue with more examples, I want to address a question that I am sure many of you are asking. That question is, why? Why do humans do these things? Why do we risk our lives for entertainment? Why do we seek out danger when safety is available? He paused, gathering his thoughts. The answer is complicated, but it begins with something simple. Humans are curious. We always have been. From the moment our ancestors first looked beyond their small territory and wondered what was out there, we have been driven to explore, to test, to push limits. The display changed to show ancient cave paintings, simple drawings of humans hunting large animals many times their size. Our earliest ancestors hunted creatures that could easily kill them. They did not have to. There were safer food sources, but they looked at those massive animals and thought, I want to know if I can bring that down. The images shifted forward through time. Humans building boats, humans crossing deserts, humans climbing mountains. Every boundary we encountered, we tried to cross. Every impossible thing became a challenge. Every danger became a question. Can we survive this? Can we conquer this? Can we make this ours? His voice grew more serious. This brings me to what I consider the greatest hold my beer moment in human history, our journey into space. The display filled with images of early rockets, primitive machines that looked like they were held together with hope and determination. When humans first decided to leave our planet, we had almost none of the technology needed to do it safely. Our rockets exploded regularly. Our calculations were done on machines less powerful than a simple communication device. We had never sent a living human beyond our atmosphere. He showed footage of early rocket failures, explosions on launch pads, machines breaking apart in the sky. We sent people anyway. The display changed to show the face of a young man in a space helmet. He was smiling. The first humans we sent into space knew the risks. The probability of death was high. The machines were untested. 1,000 things could go wrong, and many did. But when we asked for volunteers, we had more than we could use. They were military personnel, asked, ordered to go. Some were, but many were civilians, scientists, pilots, people who simply wanted to be the first to see the Earth from above. They competed for the chance to risk their lives. Pulled up images of the moon, a barren gray landscape. When we decided to send humans to the moon, we built a spacecraft with technology that would be considered primitive today. The computer systems had less power than a modern child's toy. The spacecraft walls were thin enough that a strong impact would puncture them. The astronauts sat on top of rockets filled with explosive fuel. He showed the famous footage of a rocket launching, fire and smoke billowing beneath it. 3 men climbed into a tiny metal box, sat on top of controlled explosions, and flew through empty space for 3 days. They landed on a world where no human had ever been. They walked on its surface, collected rocks, and flew back home. And if something had gone wrong, asked quietly, they would have died, alone, millions of kilometers from help. The leaders of their nation had prepared statements to read in case the astronauts could not return. Those men knew this. They went anyway. The chamber was completely silent. But that is not even the most remarkable part, continued. The most remarkable part is what happened after. We did not stop. We kept sending people into space. We built space stations. We sent robots to other planets. And eventually we sent people to Mars. The display showed red landscapes, dusty plains, distant mountains. The first Mars colonists knew that many of them would probably die. The journey alone took months. The planet could not support human life without constant technological support. If systems failed, there was no rescue possible. How many volunteered? Asked. Over 200,000 people applied for the first 50 positions. A murmur of disbelief swept through the chamber. Humans lined up for the chance to leave Earth forever, knowing they might die on a cold, empty world millions of kilometers from home. They wanted to be the first. They wanted to see something no human had ever seen. They wanted to push the boundary one more time. Lowered his voice. This is what I need you to understand. Humans do not do these things despite our fear of death. We do them because we fear something else more. What? Asked. What could you possibly fear more than death? A boring life, said simply. A life where we never tried. A life where we never knew what we were capable of. Humans would rather have a short, meaningful existence than a long, empty one. We would rather die trying something amazing than live having tried nothing at all. He gestured at the images of Mars, still floating in the display. When those colonists left Earth, they were not running from death. They were running toward a story worth telling. They were saying, in their own way, hold my beer to the entire universe. Doctor watched the faces of the alien delegates. She saw confusion giving way to something else. Not quite understanding, but perhaps the beginning of it. Your safety regulations, said slowly, they exist because without them, finished, we would have destroyed ourselves 100 times over, not from despair, not from carelessness, but from the simple, powerful human desire to find out what happens next, to see what is possible, to answer the question that has driven us since we first looked up at the stars. He smiled. The question is always the same: can we do this? And the answer for humans is always the same: let us find out. 3 months had passed since Professor's presentation to the Galactic Council. In that time, the official assessment of humanity had been completely rewritten 7 times. Committees had met. Experts had argued. Recording of the presentation had been shared across 1,000 worlds. And still, no one could quite agree on what to make of the human species. The final document, when it was released, said simply, "Species demonstrates paradoxical survival traits. Extreme self-preservation instincts coexist with equally extreme risk-seeking behavior. Classification: unpredictable. Recommendation: approach with caution. Do not issue challenges." Doctor found the last part particularly amusing. She was sitting in the observation lounge of the Harmony's Edge Station, reading the document on her tablet and watching ships come and go through the massive windows. The stars beyond were bright and endless, just as they had been when humans first looked up and wondered what was out there. The door behind her opened, and she heard the soft footsteps of Ambassador approaching. His tendrils were cycling through gentle shades of blue and green, colors she had learned meant thoughtful confusion. "Doctor," he said, settling into a seat beside her, "may I disturb you?" "Of course, Ambassador, please." For a long moment, simply stared out at the stars. His tendrils moved slowly, like grass in a gentle wind. "I have been thinking about your professor's presentation," he finally said. "I have watched it many times since he left. I have tried to understand. And I believe I am beginning to see what he meant. But there is still something I do not understand, something personal." Set down her tablet. "Ask me anything." Turned to face her. "Your professor, the shirt he wore when he arrived, the chilly cook-off that he survived, what happened at this event?" Laughed. The sound was warm and unexpected in the quiet lounge. "Someone created a chili using an experimental pepper. The pepper was rated at 4 million units. That is a measurement of how hot something is. For comparison, the hottest pepper most humans can eat comfortably is maybe 50,000 units." 4 million, repeated, "and Professor ate this." 3 bowls of it. He said the first bowl was curiosity. The second was stubbornness. The third was because someone bet him he could not. His tendrils flickered rapidly. He risked his health because of a bet. He spent 2 days in a medical facility afterward. He says it was worth it. The ambassador was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. "Doctor, I must tell you something. When I first prepared my report on humanity, I was certain of my conclusions. Your safety equipment, your warning labels, your careful regulations. They seemed like the marks of a fearful species, a species that would be easy to predict and manage. And now I understand that I was looking at the cage, not the creature inside it. Humans build these cages around themselves because without them, you would tear through the universe like fire through dry grass. The rules and regulations are not signs of fear. They are the chains you put on your own dangerous nature." Smiled. "That is actually a very good way to put it. It is terrifying." "That too." Outside the window, a human cargo vessel was preparing to depart. It was a small ship, battered and old, clearly having seen many journeys. As and watched, the ship's pilot executed a completely unnecessary barrel roll before accelerating toward the jump point. "Was that maneuver required?" asked. "No." "Then why did the pilot do it?" "Probably because someone bet him he could do it without spilling his coffee, or maybe just because he could." His tendrils went through 3 different colors before settling on a shade of purple that did not recognize. "I believe," he said slowly, "that the collective has much to learn about humanity, and I believe I am grateful that you are our allies rather than our enemies. That is very wise of you. I also believe that I will never fully understand your species. Turned to look at him with genuine warmth in her eyes. Ambassador, we do not fully understand ourselves. That is half the fun of being human. Every day, someone somewhere is doing something that makes the rest of us say, "Why would you do that?" And the answer is always the same. What is the answer? To see what happens, to find out if we can, to have a story worth telling, she shrugged. Or sometimes just because someone said, "Hold my beer." She stood and stretched, looking out at the infinite stars. Humans have always been this way. We crawled out of caves because we wanted to see what was outside. We crossed oceans in wooden boats because we wanted to know what was on the other side. We went to the moon because it was there, and we could not stand not knowing what it felt like to stand on it. She pointed at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, right now, a human is doing something dangerous and stupid and magnificent. They are climbing something they should not climb. They are diving into something they should not dive into. They are taking apart a machine just to see if they can put it back together better. Followed her gaze. And you are proud of this. Proud is not exactly the right word. It is more like acceptance. This is what we are. We cannot help it. We see a boundary and we need to cross it. We see a limit and we need to test it. We see something impossible and we need to prove it is not. She turned back to face him one last time. You asked why humans do not fear death the way you expected. The truth is, we do fear it. We fear it very much. But we fear a wasted life more. We fear never knowing what we could have done. We fear looking back and wishing we had tried. She picked up her tablet and headed for the door. The phrase, "hold my beer," is not about being stupid or careless. It is about being so alive, so present, so determined to experience everything that the universe has to offer, that even death becomes just another obstacle to overcome. She paused at the doorway. And if we cannot overcome it, at least we will have one hell of a story to tell. The door closed behind her, leaving alone with the stars. He sat for a long time, watching ships come and go, thinking about everything he had learned. Somewhere in the cosmos, he knew, another human was looking at something dangerous and thinking about trying it anyway. Somewhere, someone was saying those immortal words that had shaped an entire species. Hold my beer. And the universe, realized, would never be quite the same because of it.